This is Wendy Halley, and you're listening to Lucid Cafe. Hi there, welcome to another episode of Lucid Cafe, a podcast exploring healing, consciousness, and the complexities of being human. I have my dental hygienist turned yoga teacher sister-in-law, Terry, who you may remember from season 1 of the podcast, to thank for connecting me with today's guest, Dawn Torres. Terry's not only a badass yoga instructor, she's also my unofficial booking agent. Dawn Torres is an alternative healing practitioner and teacher whose practice borrows from the many disciplines she's explored over the years. She guides clients and students to wake up their deeply rooted inner guidance systems through yoga, meditation, Reiki, sound healing, and a multitude of transformation tools. She's come to know that the body's natural inclination is towards wellness, and it's her passion to assist others to become aware of and remove the obstacles in the way of that natural pathway to health. Needless to say, in this episode we cover a lot of ground. Dawn shares her perspective on healing, one that was born out of the various modalities she's studied and practiced, as well as some of the personal experiences she's had that inform how she approaches helping others. Please enjoy my conversation with Dawn Torres. Hi, Dawn. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Hi, Wendy, and thank you for having me. I feel like we're both already ready to crack up about all the great stuff to come.
Yeah, no pressure there.
Okay.
I have to thank my new Lucid Cafe publicist, my sister-in-law, Terry.
She is. She's your greatest voice out in the world for sure.
No kidding. You're the second person I've had on the show she's connected me with. So thank you for coming on.
Well, she's been singing your praises for years, just so you know. She's told me for many years that you and I have to connect. So yeah, it's wonderful.
And here we are.
Here we are.
I don't know much about you, so
Okay.
I think that's a good place to start.
It's a great place to start.
I mean, other than the few things that Terry has told me over the years, but I would love to hear your perspective, what it is that you're up to these days.
Okay, that's a big question. My work, like all of ours, has evolved. I would say that the very beginnings of my work in the healing arts was with Reiki, like so many. We call it the gateway drug to energy healing for many of us. So started with Reiki over 20 years ago. And next I found yoga, the practice of yoga, the physical practice, which really dropped me quickly as I took a teacher training into the whole I would say spiritual teachings of yoga, the whole kind of psychology and into the layers of the yamas, niyamas, truths of the yoga practice. And then it just kept growing from there. So I do sound healing now is a large part of the private sessions and group work that I do is to offer sound baths. I love offering group gatherings, retreats, those places where we can come together to use the yoga teachings, everything that I'm talking about to kind of come together and lift each other up and support each other as we grow. Most recently, I would say in the past couple of years, I've been really diving deeper into just the study of mediumship and how perhaps the psychic gifts that have come throughout my life, often not knowing that they were coming, but that they were coming. So working deeper with how that's evolving. And again, my private work and then group gatherings as well. And then most recently, in the past couple of years, I've been working with a process called emotion code. Do you know that work, emotion code?
I've heard the phrase, but I don't know anything about it. So why don't you educate me?
Sure. What I love about it is that, created by Dr. Bradley Nelson, is that it combines all of the amazing parts of energy work when we're getting in there to do clearing or raising vibrations and release blocks and all of that good work. But emotion code, I feel like it's just really direct. So I always love the feel good body work. I'll never let that go. But what I love about emotion code is that we're specifically talking to the person's subconscious and asking a very specific question. So say, for example, if a student or client comes in and says, I have chronic back pain and have for 20 years, or I have depression, or having addiction issues. So it can be mental, physical, spiritual, whatever. But I love it for more long-standing things that people are struggling to move past. And, we're intelligent enough to know I want it to change, and yet why can't it? I love this process for that, because to just go right to a person's subconscious, I'm using muscle testing to get answers and just ask, are there any trapped or unhealed emotions at the root cause of fill in the blank? There's a chart of 60 different emotions. And so there's this really quick way to narrow that down to get the answer. And the idea is that wherever that stuff is stashed in our bodies, that sort of as we even ask the question and it's rising to consciousness, I see it as literally kind of traveling through those nadis or energy channels, making its way up to consciousness. And then we clear down the spine or that governing meridian with the magnet or a hand, or I like to use both. And so a little more to it than that, but that's the quick synopsis of it. And so I've just seen the most miraculous things happen. When you bring up a specific emotion, you then ask to clarify the age that it kind of came to be, or when it became blocked in your system. And that can go back to childhood, in utero, even inherited. So it really taps into the whole epigenetics of, did this come down the lineage of mother or father, and how many generations back? So it can be really fascinating for somebody. For one, if something's coming up in utero or early childhood, we don't remember that, but we know subconscious has stored every bit of it. And so the gift of actually getting in there, bringing it to light and clearing. And I love the ahas that often come when a person's like looking at something that they've long forgot, and then go, oh yeah, that at 4 or 5 or whatever, that's when my parents split up, or yes, that's when something happened. And so it really, on many, many levels or layers, kind of brings the whole kind of getting into subconscious, lifting and releasing, and also allowing the person to like just have something. Doesn't matter if we remember it or not, but I just know for myself, when I work this process on myself, there's been some really amazing, like, oh, I know that to be true. I know even from what my parents have said, that was a crazy time in their lives. And so while I don't remember it, my body does. So anyway, I love bringing that in for those sort of more constant or longstanding issues that, like I said, a person's just in that place of like, why can't I change this? I've tried everything, and I want to know how I can. And I find it really useful for that.
What it kind of reminds me of is Eileen McCusick's tuning fork biofield.
Yeah. I don't know. I've not worked that process, but I know of that process. So I guess that's the beauty, right? Is that we could do this in many different ways. It's sort of like just the simplicity of going, oh yeah, we can just ask what's happening there, and can we clear it?
Right. And I guess what you're saying is that where Eileen is using tuning forks to listen for dissonance at certain points around the body.
Yes.
And I guess she's mapped it out as to various ages. I'm trying to recall I had her on the podcast. I'm trying to recall how she described it, various ages. And then that she also mapped out what types of issues fall in certain positions on the body, right, or away from the body. Anyway, and you're talking about capturing that through kinesiology.
Yes.
And then using the chart.
Yes. The chart has the chart of emotions, and even the way he's created it, I think is pretty brilliant in columns and layers, so that you can sit and go, we're asking, are there any trapped emotions, getting a yes or a no? And is it in column A or B? And then, so it's within a few seconds, you've got your answer. And then just that in identifying the age, we start with a halfway mark. So if a person's 50, I'm going to say, did this happen before the age of 25, and then maybe 2010? And so going backwards or forward that way. And with the idea that we know subconscious is not time bound or linear, it's pretty accurate within a year or two. And I just, again, while I love doing the energetic and the body feel good release work that way, I think it's really powerful to actually sometimes, when it's been this type of an issue, walk out with just that kind of a, wow, that makes such sense. And how often people go, I didn't even know I was holding on to that. I didn't even know that was in there anymore. But yet, as we know, if something's not been done to clear it, release it, let it go, of course it's still in there. So yeah, that's been a great addition. And what I love about that work is that I can do that just like this. We can do that virtually. We can do that by phone.
I was just going to ask if it's something that can be done remotely
Yes.
in case people are listening and are
Yes,
curious.
which again, I've just seen. And I'll tell you, I'm the biggest skeptic. So when I started training in this, really amazed at what I saw happening, but I am such a hands-on, touchy person that way. I love connecting one-on-one. So initially I was like, I don't know if this is going to be as effective to work with people virtually, and to see the power of the work has been for me really. And of course it makes sense because we don't need to be embodied. The energy's there, but it's always helpful, I'm sure, as you know, when we get to see how profound, or that it's still just as powerful, if not more. So yeah, I love it for that.
So then, did you capture all of the things that you wanted to
Yeah,
capture? Because I mean, that's quite a list of modalities
yeah,
that you.
I think, yeah, that's the bulk of it now. It's just like a fast synopsis of how I got to where I am now. And I mean, there's some other things in there, but that's sort of I think that encapsulates mostly what I'm doing right now. As I said, taking these things out into the world, feeling really fortunate to sort of be in a bubble right now. I think I told you I used to own a yoga studio, about 8 years that I had the studio, which I loved the space. But when you learn about yourself, I loved having a space to bring people together and to build community and just share the teachings of yoga and the healing work. And I think just a space to bring people in where, you can bring people into a space where they can feel loved and feel accepted and feel seen. I always felt like it was like the Cheers. Maybe all studios feel like that. Like, this is the Cheers. Everybody knows your name. So that was what I loved about that space. But I found after a time, I just never mastered managing a good balance with that. Meaning my work life, my home life. And I don't know that anybody probably feels that way, but I just felt like far more of my time was spent managing the business end of things, and less of my time was going towards what I love, which is the work, which is working with people. So that decision was great in the end to now, yeah, allow myself and some more time. I leading a yoga retreat next June to Montenegro, and just bringing women together for that retreat. But it's, again, that space to go and be in a beautiful location, and in that just have the time for really great healthy food, movement. I was thinking before we got on today of talking about just that, the koshas, or the layers of where we're bringing healing or balance into people's lives. And when you go on retreat, you have the ability to not go into a healing session and then go right back into your daily life. It's like just these days to really be absorbed in it and absorbed in the energy and in beautiful conversation and surrounded by other people that are interested in the same things in terms of growth and healing and awareness. So yeah, I think like right now I feel really fortunate to be doing exactly what I love, and also probably for the first time in my life to feel like I don't say yes to anything that I don't really want to do. And yeah, that's new for me, and I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful that you've gotten to that place, because I don't know if a lot of us can say that, right? I mean,
Well, it took a long while. It takes enough knocks on the head, right? To where you go, why did I say yes to that? I had the nudge that I shouldn't, and yet I did. And so, yeah, I think it's enough of those of going, no more.
well, is that a byproduct of, I mean, I think about being a woman in our culture, the idea that we tend to go in the people-pleasing direction and put others ahead of ourselves. And if, if somebody makes a request, of course,
You
we're
say
gonna,
yes.
yeah, you say yes, and then resentment grows.
Yeah. Yes, I think yes to
Yeah, which
that.
is
I think,
poison.
gosh, that's a big, because I feel like there's clearly we're all different. So I think yes to the whole masculine, feminine aspect of that. I think also the house I grew up in, there was definitely a fear of not doing as you're told, because there were severe consequences for that. So there was my nurture in that. And then sometimes in the business world, it's the whole idea of say yes to everything because you might not get another opportunity. And even getting past that and going, I don't want every opportunity if it's not the right opportunity, or it doesn't resonate with me, because then I'm not really being of service. So even learning that, right, and getting clear. So all of those things.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
So your retreats, it does sound like, I mean, the whole idea of being able to indulge in your
Yeah.
growth for a period of time and self-care, there is something really powerful, right, about just the cumulative effect of that kind of focus.
Absolutely. And I think coming probably from my very first experience of going away for 10 days on a retreat out of the country, and probably what I said earlier, the idea that I was at that point, had three of my kids still at home, worked stupid long hours, did everything for everybody else. And to go have that much time to get knocked out of my comfort zone of dysfunction long enough to go, oh my God, like this is what it could and should be like to take care of yourself. So yeah, it made a really big impact on me. And I feel like it's such a blessing you want to gift that to others. So yeah, long enough, as I said, like good food for enough days and moving your body for enough days. And if whether we're bringing in sound healing or just the vibration of what wisdom teachings, but nonetheless, to be that long to give your system that feel good feeling long enough. I think it's harder then you get home and it's harder to just bounce right back into routine that maybe wasn't so healthy. I think it gives us a little stronger, helps us maybe to hold that vibration longer or stronger to be able to go like, okay, I can make at least this one change or a couple of changes that really resonated with me there.
Yeah, no, I can say similarly with my training. I don't know if I've ever done like a retreat, actually. It always feels like it's time away working. And I guess, yeah, I guess a retreat, if you're on a healing
Yeah,
retreat, it could feel like work as well because you're working on
for
yourself.
sure. Go back to talking about even the saying yes, and is that a part of the culture of maybe being in a feminine role is similarly, right? If a lot of women are showing up, maybe near my age, I'm in my late 50s. So if a lot of women are showing up at my age, we've been through that cycle of being the mom, a lot of us, or working really hard or whatever our roles have been. And so to maybe step out of those even for a time and look at what is my mindset or what are my thoughts around self-care? Do I feel guilty about being good to myself? Do I feel like this is frivolous to actually take care of myself and be good to myself? So many things. We could be doing specific work, but also I think just being pulled back and kind of coming into that connection, mind, body, spirit, going, why do I just feel so amazing? And it's okay, not only okay, but yeah, this is how we should feel more of the time. So I think just on so many levels, which I kind of drop back into that idea of the koshas or the layers of the being in yoga, where I feel like in this healing world, as you know, it's why I think so often if we just try to hit healing on the mental level, it just goes so far. Because if we're not hitting it on the body level, to kind of move the stuff and sink it into the physical to release it. So the mental, the body, the wisdom body, the prana body, I think that's the connection. And when you go on those retreats, you're hitting all of that every day. You're sinking it into all the aspects or layers of the being. And it gives all that space for processing when you have some downtime in there too. So powerful, I think.
Do you have any thoughts or suggestions for people who may not be able to manage going on a retreat for how they can access all those aspects of
A great
themselves?
question. Fortunately, as we know, the way the world is right now, there's so much available online. I know you had the beautiful and lovely Gina Caputo on not long ago, who's also an amazing yoga teacher. There are so many teachers that I know that now are including the movement of yoga or other types of movement intermingled with the yogic teachings, intermingled with some breath work. And so all of those things are getting into those layers. So I guess that's what I would say is go online and look for a teacher that's offering things that resonate with you, even if you have never done them before, but you're curious. Of course, that's intuition going, I'm curious. That's talking to me. Give it a try. So if we're getting in there into the breath, into the prana, getting into the mind, slowing it all down, moving the body, because I don't even care so much. I'm always complete advocate of yoga because I don't know of any other movement that moves the body in every way, forward, back, twisting side, getting into all the organs in every single way. So of course I believe in it so much, but any kind of movement is wonderful. So even runners that get that runner high, you're out there moving, breathing, processing. So yeah, I would say that. I would say, I'm always offering something. Of course, I'm going to say, go look at what I'm doing, look at what Gina's doing. But teachers now that have, sometimes they're offering half-day online retreats even. So you can find these things really, really affordable. Sometimes there are free offerings, but look for that mixture of, oh, there's breath work here, there's some movement here. We're having dharmic or wisdom talks so that to help ourselves get into that. So I guess that's what I would say.
Okay. Let's go back in
Okay.
time. Dawn,
How far back with you? How far back?
I'm curious how you ended up on this path.
Okay, we didn't go back that far because I actually remember that. I would say, as I expressed, Reiki was the first modality that I tapped into. And it's so funny to look back that far. That spoke to me for a couple of reasons. I actually, like in a former life, I used to own a hair and nail salon. And I also did nails, which is really funny. I always joke the asthmatic that sat and did acrylic nails, so bad. But I was starting to realize that something was happening in holding hands with people. I didn't know what. I didn't know anything about this whole energy world. I just know things were starting to happen. And within the course of a few years of having that salon, a lot of what I would have called then really weird people started finding me. But now I know my spiritual teachers started dropping in. Literally, this one lady dropped in to lease a room from me for Reiki, told me, I won't be here long. Just so you know, I just came here for you. And I mean, that's what started happening for me all the time. Another woman who, just the most magnificent teacher who started teaching me about auras and angels and all of these things, dropped into my life shortly before my mom passed. I had a dream that my mom was passing. It was my first prophetic dream and knew not what to do with that. And here's this angel in my life that knows exactly what I need to do with that. So just because of what was happening and what I was experiencing energetically and having kind of some visions and dreams and having these teachers in my life that said, you need to go pursue that. Like, what are you doing here doing people's nails? Like, what is wrong with you? So that was the catalyst to even start looking at, well, here's this woman talking about Reiki. Let me go look into that first. So I had started down that field and then popped into a yoga class with a friend. Didn't even want to. She pulled me into that class. And after one class, I got off the floor and went, what just happened to me? I struggled with my breath my whole life. I was an asthmatic since infancy. And to have a whole class where you're just breathing deeply and to feel strong, to feel strong in your body. I never would have said I felt strong in my body before that. So one class and I was hooked. I mean, it was just, again, like those things just dropped. And it didn't take me long to start finding teacher trainings because it was so profound for me. Of course, then you want to go share that. So yeah, yoga teacher training, started heading off to India and other places and opened a studio. Yeah, just became everything. That's my short answer.
Okay.
Okay.
So your mom's death was unexpected?
Yes. She, lifetime smoker. I mean, she passed from emphysema. So technically it could be expected, but no, we were actually my mom was going through some emotional stuff. We won't ever really know. She'd had a brain tumor and before that, but her behavior started becoming really erratic. So she and I were not talking, we just couldn't get to her to pull her out of whatever was happening, which was really a traumatic time for me. My mom had been my best friend. It was a really rough time to go through. So even more impactful when she's choosing to not speak to me, to have this dream. And it was very clear, I knew it wasn't just a dream, that she was dying. So, I chose to call her. I didn't tell her I dreamt she was dying, but I told her, Mom, I had a dream that just reminded me of the importance of how short life is. And nothing's worth this. Nothing's worth the disconnection from people we love. And yeah, she didn't hear it. She didn't hear it in that moment. I still spoke it, which even all of that was a lesson when I went back to my mentor and said, what's the point of the dream or being given the message when someone else doesn't hear it? The point is we all have our own karma, and I acted on mine. And it did come around. I mean, within a couple months, she was diagnosed after that dream. and she had 4 months to live. The fortunate thing was when I showed up, she then let me be there, and we did have the chance for all of that healing and connection to happen. So, I'll be forever grateful for that dream, because I had that processing time before she finally, the fear of dying allowed her to kind of snap out of it. But I had that window of time to be really clear on what I wanted with her and what I wanted to resolve before she went. So yeah, that nudge of that happening and being able to go through her death, very aware and doing some really deep work. I was working with one of my mentors with hypnotherapy and some processing to really clear a lot of the crap from my childhood that needed to be cleared.
Oh, yeah.
I think for most of us, we do this work because of our own past shit and trauma.
Yep.
That makes us, as you feel, and you want to support others in doing the same work. So yeah, again, short answer.
How old were you when your mom died?
I was 38. She was 58. She was, I've told Terry, she passed at the age I am right now, 58 years old. So this whole year has been a really special year for me. I've kind of been, I decided at the start of the year that I'm walking it in sort of a pilgrimage, like hand in hand with her, as if, what if this were my last year? How would I live it? And making sure that I'm saying yes to what I want, saying no to what I don't want, making sure you're telling the people you love, just those simple things. But it's actually been a really powerful and beautiful year to kind of walk it that way with her. So yeah, it's young, 58.
How about that? Yeah, I know. I'm not far behind you.
I think it's young. I mean, clearly when we were younger, I thought 58 was old, but now where we're sitting, it's, who knows really how many days we have left, but I feel young in spirit. I'll say that. So
that's true.
I feel like there's so much life to live.
And 60 is the new 40.
It is
what people have told me.
If we choose it to be, it is. Yeah. 60, the new 40.
Yes. Yeah. I just think it's funny too. The reason why I asked you about your mom and your age is I'm wondering if for you, her death and the knowledge of her death prior to her knowing, if that had any, looking back now, any kind of unconscious impact on your spiritual path or your trajectory into what you're doing now.
I would say absolutely 100%. I had, after she passed, just to share with you another woo-woo experience. After she passed, and I felt really clear with looking at a lot of childhood things and all the forgiveness work and those things that we do. But I was in a meditation one night and because I love evening meditation they feel a little bit more tantric or something, sometimes I kind of can go in a different place with evening energy. But I'm in this meditation and all of a sudden I somewhere out in space. That's all I'll say. It's like I'm in the middle of a dark sky and I'm a little light like a star, but yet I know it's me. And it's sort of like, again, you're trajected, minding my own business in my meditation and what's happening? So as I'm there, this little light, there's another little light, and the voice is my mom's voice. And what I know then as I kind of come into an awareness of what I'm seeing is that I'm seeing myself before I come into this body, into this lifetime. And I'm all excited telling my mom, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I know what I want to do when I go down. I know what I want to be and all of these things. And I'm sharing this work with her and you're going to be there. And so I'm talking with her about soul family, and she stops. It gets quiet for a second. And she says, well, I'll go with you, but you're asking me to hurt you, right? I said, what are you talking about? I'm setting this all up. No, we're going to go do this. And she says, but you won't remember that you set this all up. Wendy, it was such a moment of clarity, of even the thinking I'd let go of all my stuff with her, where you realize there still is a little bit of stuff in there. I just sat there and cried, and my heart, I just had such compassion in that moment, because we do know, regardless, it is those that hurt us the most often that are our best teachers and teach us the very most. But to realize, this person that's come in and poked you in every kind of way and triggered you and all my expectations of what mother's supposed to be, all the ways. And in that moment to go, but all of those ways are what created who I am today, or supported creating that. So it was this that was a beautiful moment of having clarity on that. So when you ask me that, I bounce back to that moment because I believe even that some of those moments are a little bit predestined. I believe like at some point I'll be leaving and it's going to be a part of the catalyst to wake you up even deeper. Because that was the beginning of where I really started meditating on a regular basis and going in and doing that work, which is, like that starts to open vision and those sorts of things. So had I not lost her young in that way, who knows if or when that would have happened. Yeah, taking that challenge and also allowing it to be a big push for my growth.
What a powerful experience.
Yeah, it was. Grateful to this day.
Yeah, I love that pre-life conversation you had with your
Yeah.
mom. It seems to sort of be in alignment with my shamanic experiences in that realm, where the part of us that's deciding, at least this is my experience, the part of us that's deciding to incarnate is not human. There's nothing human about that part of you. And it can get very excited about
Oh, yeah.
coming to this crazy planet, even knowing how challenging it
Yeah.
can be, especially for
Yes.
some of us who have very challenging lifetimes, that there is kind of a blueprint.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but well, you're right. Like, cause I got to witness that excitement. I was just like busting at the seams. So there must be some, when we're fully back in spirit, a little bit of forgetting the pain in the human body, right? Just like in the human body, there's the forgetting somewhat of pure spirit. And I liken it to maybe it's almost like mothers that have more than one child. They say, you joke that because why would you have more than one when you know how painful it is? And there's some sort of forgetting a little bit, just enough that you are crazy enough to do it again.
I've heard that, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I fully was in that but for some reason, wherever my mom was on that plane, she knew. And maybe that means she's an older, wiser soul. I don't know. But that she knew, no, this is going to hurt you. I mean, it was just really beautiful. And so I guess to me, those moments when we have those experiences and the less and less personal it becomes for us. Is that making sense? It's like those moments for me make it so much less about me. It's just the whole.
Oh, yeah. I get
Yeah.
what you're saying now. Yeah, it gives you, I call it that more
Yes.
cosmological perspective, that bigger
Yeah.
perspective of, okay, had your mom already died when you had
Yes.
that experience?
Yes.
All
Yeah.
right. So, I mean, if you think about it, and this is just my take on what you
Mhm.
just described, the part of you that was having that visionary experience was still connected to your humanness.
Yes.
So you may not have had that wide access that your mom had because she wasn't connected with the human experience anymore. So she could kind of give you that broader,
Right.
like, oh,
Yes.
remember?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was fascinating. As you know, like those journeys allow us to get into those places and see beyond, which is really amazing. But even that to go, even when you think you've completely cleared, healed, whatever, and to have oh, there's a teeny little bit there, or maybe even the wisdom to see it even broader. Like it was that for me.
So many layers of learning that we can experience. I mean, it's likely
Never
unending, which can be a little vexing.
done.
Yeah.
Never done. Which is,
Would you say never
I said
again?
never done, which is why we need so many lifetimes to figure it out.
Yeah, no kidding. I was going to say, if you said never again, that's a phrase I hear so many times with the folks who come in
Oh,
and work with me.
really?
Is that, yeah, that they make the proclamation that this is my last
Well,
lifetime. This is it. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to get it all right this
yeah,
time.
we'll see.
And I'm like, all right then.
I just know I will be taking my last breath on my deathbed with like a book, trying to research one more thing, or I think the beautiful thing is something about when the whole idea of healing or seeking or transcending or all of those things, like when we get to a place where it's less and less about that, and maybe that just means a certain degree or enough of a degree of healing has happened where, oh, it's kind of no longer about that anymore. Now it's about just growth. Now it's about just the beauty of wanting to know more and broaden and understand.
Yeah, maybe also just
Yes.
living too, just
Yeah.
like actually
Yes.
trying
Trying to
to
just.
After you've sifted through and sorted through
Yes.
some of the
Yeah.
wounds, like you've gotten a handle on some of the wounding that you've experienced, then maybe it's like you can have moments of enjoying your experience here on this amazingly beautiful planet that we're fucking up. But
Imagine that.
imagine that, yeah. Like you could really taste the chocolate. You could really, really enjoy that piece of music in a way that you couldn't before because maybe your shit was getting in the
Yeah.
way.
I love that you say that. That is 100% where I am in the last, I don't know how many years. It's about now. It's like your inner child coming out on steroids. It's like every part of me that didn't get to play or got held back or got whatever, or, now is like, wow, just coming out. And again, who knows how many days we have left. So exactly that, going, where am I that I'm not enjoying a moment? And if that's the case, stop, go in really, and not being afraid to be ridiculous, not being afraid to do the thing you want to do, but you did it because you're afraid of looking silly. And again, I go back to retreats. I think those are so powerful because you're there together in a group and encouraging, and let's step out of our box. Let's have fun. Let's play. Let's laugh. And I think, as you know, far too many people are not getting to do that because life feels hard and it's work and it's serious and it's all the things. And so more and more going, that's a spiritual practice, is to play. Maybe the most important spiritual practice is to play.
Yes, an important reminder.
Yes.
If you can access that, even for a moment, I think it's a good thing.
Yes.
What are you most excited about right now?
Couple of things. As I said, really developing in terms of mediumship and learning to take those visits from spirits that come and trust to work with that more broadly. In the past, I don't take that out into the world other than really in this healing space. So, if I'm working with somebody and a spirit comes through with a message, which is always just a loving healing message, I deliver those. But because those have been coming more and more in different ways, I'm just working now, taking some training to kind of develop that and just ask, what am I supposed to do with that? So working on that. And then a book that I've been writing for 100 years that always gets put on the back burner, but I've really been working.
That's a long time to be.
Way before I was born, I was working on it. But, again, post closing a yoga studio, really making that a priority for myself and deciding that it's something that I want to finish. So I did a lot of work on that this year, and even next year, I want to make that a stronger commitment to that. It changes. You write. So, it's like, it's the first thing that I'm trying to actually write and complete. I like to write. I'm an Aries. I like to write in short, quick things and send them out. Like that suits my personality. So the bigger struggle for somebody like that is that staying consistent. And so anyway, I've done a lot of work on that. It's getting there.
It is quite a discipline. What is it that you're writing?
So
I know it's a
yes.
book, but what is the book
A comic
about?
book, a spiritual comic book. I actually like that. So there's a couple things I'm writing. The first one that I'm wanting to complete is really, it's a combination of a couple of the stories that I've talked to you about, but it's really just my own version of what are the processes for supporting anybody who just wants to deepen their connection to spirit, to answer the questions of how do I get those messages? How do I have that connection? Because some people feel like they don't and everybody else does. And so just, it's some personal story, but also some spiritual practices to support that. So that's first. And it's kind of, like I said, just my own journey of the things that kind of poked me into getting there. So a lot of other stories that were a part of that. And then the practices along the way that can help. A lot of energy practices, third eye awareness practices, energy clearing, and all of that good stuff to support those things happening.
Oh, it sounds cool. It sounds like a similar format to a guy I recently had on the show.
Oh, who's that?
His name is Carl Greer, but his life story is different, but it's like a memoir based on his learnings and his experiences,
Right.
things that you can reflect on. So it's kind of got the self-help thread throughout based on his life experiences and his own challenges. It sounds similar in that way, combining of genres of self-help and
Yes.
memoir.
And when you say that, what I like about it is I mean, I don't know. I think we all teach best from our personal experience. I really can't teach from anything but that. And the idea that I think in sharing that with others, I think sometimes people think, oh, if I just go be like her, I can do that. If I just go be like her, I can do that. And that's not ever true. I think as teachers, if we're teaching people, no, go be you.
Yeah, it's also a little creepy.
That's creepy, yes. And so, but it's more getting people to trust, like, no, within you is this magic, and it's going to look different, and your story is going to be different, and your experiences are different, but within them are your own keys. So I love that. I'll have to go check out his book. But within our own stories they're all just showing up to show us the way, the breadcrumbs to say, look here are your answers. And I think sometimes each of us needing to be reminded, oh, there's actually magic in that story of mine and in that pain of mine and all of that. So yeah, hopefully that's what I want it to be, is just more, yes, it's our stories, but it's a revelation that your stories hold the same magic in their own way, and just look into them.
And they absolutely do. I agree. And that's powerful medicine, because each one of us, whether you're Carl Greer or you're Dawn Torres, you never know whose story is going to impact you and whose story is going to find its way to you.
Agreed. And maybe thinking about, I don't know about you, but I think younger, there's the real naive and innocent me that maybe thought most people have some charming, perfect life, and I'm the only one who doesn't, or there's just a handful of us that don't. And at some point you realize, really, most everybody's life is insane. Most of us are having, who gets through life without struggles and hurts and pains? It's part of the human experience. And so this idea of, as we tear down walls of ideas or expectations that life was ever supposed to be something like that, instead, that is the human experiences. We come in and through, what we call pain or suffering, instead of going, oh, these are experiences to help us look, experiences to show us, oh, there's something there for me to learn and a reason for me to grow. So I love the idea of that. And I just keep going back to groups and retreats, because probably like you, I see a lot of people that whatever they're going through, you keep it tight to the self. You keep it tight to the cuff. And especially if it's personal things, like if it's addiction or problems in a marriage or relationship. So they're sitting and suffering alone, maybe a therapist, if that, but if not, feeling so alone and isolated and like they're one of the few going through the suffering. Instead of always, when we get together in groups where it's safe to share and you realize, oh, everybody's having or had really deep, profound stuff. And I think that just helps us all not to feel so isolated, alone, strange. Like, oh, I'm just one of the many.
Oh, absolutely. I agree. Yeah. Being human can feel very lonely, I think.
Sad, isn't it? I know there's great work in the loneliness.
Yeah, it is sad.
But it's hard when we're there.
Yeah. That kind of lonely, though, like suffering in silence kind of loneliness,
right?
It's heartbreaking.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it is.
So that's a lovely note to wind our conversation down on, huh?
Find something happy to end on.
So for whoever's listening, if you're suffering in silence, my heart goes out to you.
And I'm here. Contact me. Because honestly, I think there's nothing more beautiful. And those of us, again, that I don't know anybody who's not in the role or capacity of teacher, healer, whatever we call ourselves, that we're here because we've been through it on some level. And we're here because we want to be of support, a light holder, and hold space for those that are. And that's what I feel like. Be that light at the end of the tunnel to go, there is a way out, we'll get out, and here's some beautiful tools to support you along the way. It doesn't have to feel like this forever. But I wish I'd had those younger. That's the beauty of once you find them, sharing them.
Oh, yeah. If only. ...
Yes.
So how would people find you? What's the best way to find you, to learn more about your work and connect with you?
Learn more about my work. My website really is where I'm going to always have whatever event or ongoing is happening. And there's the list of what I do and the different modalities that I do. And my social media too, but there's a lot of playing on my social media. So if somebody needs some good joy, they can go look at that too. That's where my inner child comes out. So all of those places.
Okay.
Yes.
What is your website?
Is Dakini, DAKINI, healing.com. And then same with social media and stuff.
All right. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Dawn. It was fun to talk with you.
Thank you so much. Fun to talk to you also, Wendy. Thank you.
I've decided that Dawn is like a spiritual Swiss Army knife. She's got all kinds of tools up her sleeves. If you'd like to learn more about Dawn's work, or perhaps tap into your playful side at one of her upcoming retreats, please visit her website, dakinihealing.com. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be back in a few weeks with another thought-provoking episode. Until next time.